She slapped me across the face. She began to hit me. She started beating me. I didn't like it, so I strangled her to death. I put her in a wheelbarrow. I put her in my car. I took the car.
I could just hear the hammer hitting her head.
And what did it sound like?
There was this wet thumping sound.
May 8th, 2021, 14-year-old Aiden Fui stabbed Tristan Bailey 114 times. In his interview, he confessed to kissing her before mercilessly taking her life. What he did would change the course of his life forever. Here are 10 disturbing interviews with evil kids. Number 10. Beth Thomas.
At nighttime, what do your parents do to your door?
Lock it shut.
Why do they lock it shut?
Because they don't want me to hurt John.
Now, this might be one of the craziest interviews you'll ever hear of. In 1990, this 6-year-old girl confessed to a TV reporter how she viciously stuck her brother with pins and said she wanted to kill him and their parents, with no trace of emotion on her face. 1985 marked the birth of Beth Thomas, who would develop severe behavioral problems that arose as a result of continued neglect and sexual abuse by her biological father. After her adoption, this little girl would steal knives from the kitchen and fantasize about killing her adoptive parents and her brother, which she subjected to continuous beatings and physical torment, perpetuating that cycle of abuse started by their father.
Why do you want your brother to die?
Because I was hurt so bad, and I don't want to be around people.
Now, after a quick adoption process in which the kid's tormented past was hidden from the new parents, Beth would show a lot of aggressive and sexual behaviors towards herself and her brother, and offered deadpan confessions about wanting to kill both him and their adoptive parents. This absolute lack of empathy and emotion in Beth, even when discussing the most gruesome details of her awful deeds and thoughts, seemed to point towards a future of a psychopathic killer, a sadist completely oblivious to other people's pain and suffering, not seeming to care about it or react to it in any way. The final red flag rose when Julie realized some big knives had gone missing from their kitchen. At first, she felt ashamed to think that little Beth might have something to do with it, but that first hunch was right. The troubled kid had stolen 5 of them from the dishwasher with the hope of using them later on her family. This wasn't too far-fetched, since the girl had already tried to kill her brother on several occasions.
Big sharp ones.
And what do you want to do with those knives?
Kill John and Mommy with them, and Daddy.
Fortunately for everyone, the adoptive parents realized all these horrible behaviors were growing in little Beth before it was too late. They investigated further into that tragic past and learned about the source of her uncontrollable rage. She would be taken to a special place for kids with attachment disorders where she was treated and taught to behave like a normal person who cared about the distinction between right and wrong. But that interview from her evil years remains a harsh reminder of what an abused mind can become.
What were you thinking when you were doing that?
Thinking of killing him.
Number 9. Christian Fernandez.
He was sitting like this, and then how did you do his legs so we can understand happened?
Like this.
March 2011, Jacksonville, Florida. 12-year-old Christian Fernandez was arrested for brutally killing his brother by slamming his head repeatedly on a bookshelf. Now, what would drive him to do something like this? 1999. Christian was conceived through an act of violence, with his biological father being convicted of sexual assault against his mother, Bianella Susana. As if cursed from inception, his life took a turn for the worse as Christian himself was sexually abused by a cousin and physically assaulted by his stepfather, who killed himself before the police arrived to investigate the assault. When he was only 2 years old, Christian was found naked, dirty, and alone as he wandered the streets of South Florida. He was supposed to be under his grandmother's supervision, but that old lady was found in a motel room with lots of cocaine, while the child's 14-year-old mother was missing. Now, this rough, traumatic background would create a shell personality in the boy. He would say to a counselor, "You gotta suck up your feelings and get over it." The family would move to Jacksonville, and there, tragedy struck again. March 14th, 2011, Fernandez Fernandez's half-brother David died in a local hospital after suffering a skull fracture. The boy also presented a bruised left eye and brain hemorrhaging. Their mother had left the kids alone, and upon her return, she found David unconscious. But instead of acting on it immediately, she waited for over 8 hours before taking him to the hospital. Later, they would find out she spent a lot of time online searching for terms like unconsciousness and coma, as if trying to avoid taking care of David. After being confronted with the facts, Susanna also disclosed that Christian had broken David's leg while wrestling 2 weeks before David's death. Now, Christian was initially questioned as a witness, but was soon charged with first-degree murder, and another felony charge would be filed after his other half-brother told a psychiatrist that Fernandez had sexually assaulted him. His mother was charged with aggravated manslaughter due to her incompetence in assisting the child. One doctor who treated Christian affirmed
he denied any plans or intent to kill his brother. He seemed rather defensive about discussing what triggered his anger. He talked about having a flashback of the abuse by his stepfather as the motive for this offense. Christian was rather detached emotionally while discussing the incident.
Why'd you take it out on your little brother?
No.
Is it because he was there?
Number 8. James Fairweather.
Stood over like that. I'm not helping that. So I stabbed him first there. And I've done it a few times. While I was doing that, my voices were laughing and laughing and laughing louder and louder.
March 29th, 2014. 15-year-old James Fairweather ruthlessly stabbed 33-year-old James Atfield at Castle Park in Colchester. What could have driven this guy to attack a random person with more than 100 stabs? Born on August 5th, 1998, James went through a rough childhood. He suffered from dyslexia, constantly being bullied by his classmates at Colchester Academy due to the size of his ears, and they would even give him the nickname Dumbo. He took comfort in a close relationship with his grandmother, so when she died, he took it negatively, sending him spiraling faster towards a dark path. The first victim, coincidentally called James, last name Atfield, was a father of 4 who was having a rough time dealing with a disability consisting of some mobility issues. He suffered severe brain trauma due to a car accident. The poor man was dozing off, lying on the grass, when Fairweather found him and saw an easy target in him. Fairweather would later say that the voices in his head urged him to attack that man on the ground, signaling him as the chosen sacrifice. 102 stab wounds later, Atfield was left for dead in a pool of blood.
And I saw him. It was laying on the grass. Like that. It was like that. Just fast asleep, swear he was drunk.
The repeated references to the voices in his head only served to paint his gruesome psychological reality in all its gritty detail. A gritty nightmare that wouldn't keep him away from murder for too long. December 17, 2014. 3 months after his first kill, Fairweather would strike again. 31-year-old Nahid Almanya was walking to Essex University when, at some point in the morning, James attacked her in an even more vicious manner, jumping at her from behind, removing her glasses, specifically targeting her eyes, and then just stabbed her across her whole body. Luckily, an eagle-eyed Essex citizen spotted James in the fields as they walked their dog in the morning. A previous sighting of the boy had provided a partial description of his clothing and general appearance, so this person didn't hesitate to call the police. He was found hidden in the bushes wearing that same jacket he wore when he killed Almanya, and had his pocket knife with him, ready for a third passerby. The boy immediately confessed after being captured. Number 7. Aiden Fui.
It's all on you right now.
What is my problem?
You were the last one with her.
Seen with her. So right now, it's facing you right now, son.
May 8th, 2021. Aiden Fui, a 14-year-old from St. John, Florida, took his classmate Tristan Bailey into the woods and stabbed her 114 times. But this time it wouldn't be about evil voices in his head. Fui was described as a typical obnoxious know-it-all, a boy full of arrogance and disdain toward authority figures. But his reddest flag was an unhealthy obsession with murder. The guy just wouldn't shut up about it around his friends, expressing his sick desire to know,
what would it feel like to kill someone?
His classmates and friends were used to hearing the boy's fantasies about slitting someone's throat and even watch him practice his stabbing moves and talk about his method of choice for a first murder, luring someone into the woods and going into full denial if anyone found the dead body. But of course, no one ever took him seriously until it was too late. Not even his girlfriend, who was used to watching him play with knives around her, and one time even pretended to go for her throat. On the day of the tragedy, Tristan was seen alive for the last time on surveillance footage, leaving a friend's house in Aiden's company past 1 in the morning. Her destiny, the woods, where she would be mercilessly stabbed a staggering 114 times with one of 2 of Aiden's pet knives, picker and poker. Now, in his mind, he committed a perfect crime, following the steps he had often spoke about. But this couldn't be further away from reality because 1, everybody knew about his plans, and 2, security cameras caught him running back home from the woods at 3 a.m. And 3, he was stupid enough to post a Snapchat joking about his victim's disappearance after being the last person in their company.
Any further?
When a runner discovered Tristan's lacerated corpse in the woods, Aiden was immediately brought in for questioning. In a preliminary interview, you could see his clear sociopathic tendencies, showing little to no emotion, even when he was directly signaled as the primary suspect. Not only did he lure the girl into the woods, but also seized the opportunity and kissed her before killing her, leaving incriminating DNA evidence. When Aiden's home was raided, they found all the evidence they needed to convict him. Poker's knife sheet was empty inside one of his drawers. His Nike shoes were all wet and bloody. A blood-stained t-shirt and blue jeans was hidden in the dresser, and the shower was riddled with blood and dirt. All of that, plus surveillance, showing him wearing that exact outfit on the night of Tristan's murder, was enough to seal his fate. In his preliminary online hearing, the troubled boy tried to turn his narrative toward insanity. He hoped that all of his notebooks with the violent satanic drawings found in his room could help him sustain the insanity plea by adding the classic "the demons made me do it" crazy talk. No one believed his bad acting, and he was sentenced to life in prison. Number 6. Alysa Bustamante.
You dug the hole, so you know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
That was a very, very unique hole.
I guess.
October 21st, 2009. A chilling crime surprised the small town of St. Martin's, Missouri. The perpetrator was a 15-year-old girl named Alysa Bustamante, a good student, perfectly normal in appearance, who happened to harbor a dark fascination with death. Alysa was what you might call a stereotypical emo girl, as her personal story confirms that. She tried to leave the world in 2007, and after spending 10 days at a psychiatric hospital in St. Martin's, she would get on antidepressants. Despite her medication, she continued damaging herself. 2 years later, in an already too familiar move by this point, Alysa lured her neighbor, Elizabeth Olton, into a secluded woodland area near their home. Then she proceeded to brutally attack the girl, strangling her, slitting her throat, and stabbing her multiple times. She would dispose that body in a makeshift grave. Call it bold, call it stupid, but she drew attention to herself digging a grave in the vicinity of her household several days before the incident.
What is it? They collect a lot of things, such as your diary.
And the shovels.
And the shovels.
When they took her diary, the police made a chilling discovery. On a scratched-out section where the hidden words "slit throat" were still visible, they found a complete entry in which Alysa let her true horrific self shine without restrictions.
I just fucking killed someone. I strangled them and slit their throat and stabbed them. Now they're dead. I don't know how to feel at the moment. It was amazing. As soon as you get over the "oh my god, I can't do this" feeling, it's pretty enjoyable. I'm kind of nervous and shaky though right now. Okay, gotta go to church now. LOL.
The evidence against her version of the accident was overwhelmingly clear. After seeing herself completely cornered while attempting to put more obstacles into the investigation, Alysa broke and confessed.
So I burned her body. Because I didn't like it.
She was arrested and charged with first-degree murder. Later in court, she pleaded guilty to a lesser charge of second-degree murder in an attempt to avoid that death penalty. She was finally given life imprisonment with the possibility of parole. Today, she's still in jail but may be eligible for parole this year. Number 5. Michael Hernandez.
Why did you make the suggestion to Jamie to go inside the school today?
I was planning to murder him.
February 3rd, 2004, Jamie Go was found in a pool of blood in the second-floor bathroom at Southwood Middle School. His killer, 14-year-old Michael Hernandez, used their friendship as the perfect bait to lure Jamie to his death. Michael, described as a promising student, was also interested in violent music and horror movies, and kinda developed an unhealthy fascination with serial killers. And before attacking Jamie, he made a list of people he wanted to murder. On the day of the incident, Michael would lure Jamie to an empty bathroom stall, promising to show him something amazing. Jamie couldn't get away from Michael's latexed hands, and he slit his throat from behind. He then proceeded to stab him in the neck approximately 40 times until his urges were satisfied. Now, Hernandez was so far removed from any feelings of guilt that he even returned to the crime scene to search for a missing ring he left on the bathroom floor. It wouldn't cross his mind to check on his friend, because for him, it was a dead body, a completed task. He never really cared for this kid anyway. After a teacher noticed bloodstains on his clothes, she called the police, and a murder weapon was found in his backpack, along with some latex gloves, sufficient evidence to lock him up, and obtain this chilling confession that ultimately got him a life sentence in 2004. He remained in prison until he died in 2021.
Had you had planned to do this to Jamie?
Yes, I did.
How long have you had this plan?
A little under a week.
Number 4. Morgan Geyser and Anissa Weir.
You stopped her for what?
A knife.
How did you stop her?
I said stab.
Oh, stabbed her?
Mm-hmm.
So, this happened in the woods?
It wasn't in the woods, it was just a little group of trees.
May 31st, Morgan and Anissa, a couple of teens also known as the Slender Man Killers, viciously stabbed their friend, Peyton Bella Lutner, a total of 19 times after luring her in the woods in Waukesha, Wisconsin. The two girls allegedly wanted to please a fictional entity called Slender Man that came straight out of the internet's gruesome stories known as creepypastas. Their idea was to act as proxies of this character by committing a real-world murder. They believed this would appease the monster who, in return, would allow them to live with him in his forest mansion. They didn't have any ulterior motives to pick Bella. During Morgan's interview, and despite her overall tranquil demeanor, there were signs of erratic behavior that might have pointed from the very start signs of schizophrenia, psychosis, or even bipolar disorder. On the other hand, Anissa showed herself to be extremely upset from the beginning and even tried to distract the interviewer with questions as she disassociated. She also tried to establish Morgan as the main culprit immediately.
This is about Morgan. She can be a little jumpy and like she says she hears voices too. But I just wanted to tell you.
Anissa's initial words turned out to be true, as Morgan would later be diagnosed with schizophrenia. Anissa believed that she wasn't in that much trouble, that she would be released and taken as a witness to the murder, since she didn't participate in the stabbing. In the moment of truth, she froze, in which Morgan completed the deed alone. Despite Anissa's efforts, both girls were sentenced in the end. She was handed an indeterminate sentence of 25 to life, which involves a minimum of 3 years of confinement and mandatory treatment at a state psychiatric institute. After that, she'd be under community supervision until reaching the age of 37.
Morgan, stabbed Peyton, or Bella, as people call her.
They call her Bella?
Okay. You go to school with Peyton? Yes, Bella. Okay.
On the other hand, Morgan Geyser received a max sentence of 40 to life. This would include also 3 years of confinement and compulsory treatment in a state psychiatric institute. This would continue until her symptoms were fully resolved, or until she turned 53, whichever came first. Following this, she would be under continuous community supervision, with a periodic reassessment and/or reinstitution, and further treatment as necessary, as stipulated by her sentence. On a happy note with this horrific case, Bella survived that vicious murder attempt and got to see her attackers get what they deserved.
Is she dead?
I don't know. She was taken to the hospital. Maybe no.
What? I was just wondering.
Number 3. Sonny Kim.
After that, I walked out to the living room and I turned left. I saw my sister and I put about 8 rounds into her chest from here, torso.
December 19th, 2016, Sonny Kim suddenly took a 1911 .45 caliber pistol the family had bought as a Christmas present for his father and fatally shot his 23-year-old sister Ashley Kim dead at their home in Martinez, Georgia. He would also attempt to shoot his stepfather, James Allen Brazel, as soon as he tried to stop him. But Sonny had emptied his first clip and tried to change the magazine without even looking at it. By the time the second clip was inside, the stepfather had the gun pressed against his chest with a resounding click. Sonny mistakenly put the empty mag back into the pistol, unintentionally sparing James's life.
Not very good at firearms, so I wasn't able to kill him. But after that, yes, he took the gun away from me. I sat back down on the couch.
In this interview, an empathy-devoid Kim confesses to investigators his plan to kill his family and himself. He's completely detached from the events that just happened, from any emotional connection to his wounded sister, and even from himself in a clear case of depersonalization. He looks and talks from a place of emotional numbness, disconnected from his surroundings, experiencing memory difficulties, not to mention the way he was seen talking out loud to himself before the interview began.
And the idea was walk into the bedroom, both parents were either sleeping or resting, kill father, kill mother, and then walk out into the living room and kill her. Order of that magnitude.
And just like the other kids on this list, one question will always remain after you see something like this. Why did they do it? We'll never have a satisfactory answer to this. Kim conveyed to the investigators that there had been no premeditation. He didn't have a desire to even do it, yet he did it and planned to take it to the very last consequence. Had he been more skillful with a gun, he would have killed the whole family before ending his own life.
I would have never seen this coming. I believe that the world is full of something that is very evil and dark,
said Brazel when questioned about Sonny's motives. Later, during Sonny's trial, forensic psychologist Allison Paganelli questioned Sonny about an interrogation video that shows him conversing with seemingly invisible entities. He described after watching the video of himself,
I imagine if you were able to look into a parallel dimension and watch yourself, it would be like that,
Paganelli recounted. In addition to felony and malice murder, Sonny admitted guilt to aggravated assault and 1 count of firearm possession during a crime. Being diagnosed by multiple doctors with having Asperger's and disorders akin to schizophrenia, Kim was sentenced to life imprisonment with the potential for parole, contingent on his receipt of mental health treatment while incarcerated.
Don't know. Either it was out of curiosity, boredom, or something else.
Number 2. Gregory Ramos.
Did you kill your mother, take things from your house, distribute them amongst your friends, come in here today and lie to my face and say that you didn't do that?
No.
No what? I didn't do that. You didn't kill your mother?
No.
November 2nd, 2018, 15-year-old Gregory called 911 to report a home burglary incident in Volusia County, Florida. The situation escalated quickly as police realized that Gregory's 46-year-old mother, Gail Klayanger, remained missing. His running car abandoned on the driveway wasn't a good signal. After a long interrogation process in which Ramos tried to trick the police into believing into the burglary scenario, all its inconsistencies played against the boy. He didn't even know that by the time he was being questioned, his 2 accomplices, Dylan Keglarek and Brian Porras, had already declared that they all staged the burglary together and took some of Gregory's valuables to their houses. The boys even declared about Gregory's bragging. He was proud about having killed his mother.
Your buddies turned us onto it. Now you need to tell me what happened, because they've already told me what happened, told my pals what happened, so you need to come to Jesus. You're a religious man.
Cornered and incapable of keeping this charade going, he just snapped with a disinterested,
it's whatever,
and confessed his horrible crime. According to his confession, Ramos killed his mother after an argument over his grades by strangling her with his bare hands for 30 minutes. He then would call his 2 friends, Seglerick, and Porras to help him dispose of the body and stage a burglary at his home. The trio dumped her body into a fire pit at a nearby church and took some of her belongings, like a laptop, phone, and some jewelry, to make it look like a robbery, and would even try to pawn them later.
She slapped me across the face. She began to hit me. She started beating me. I didn't like it, so I strangled her to death. I put her in a wheelbarrow. I put her in my car. I took the car.
Gregory's deadpan delivery and monotonous recollection of the events go as far in detail as casually discussing gruesome details like a putrid smell emanating from his mother's corpse, or how difficult it was to carry, or what position he put it when he threw it in a hole he dug in the ground. Ramos pleaded guilty to first-degree murder, abuse of a dead body, and tampering with evidence. He was sentenced to 45 years in prison, with the possibility of parole after 25 years. He also has a lifetime probation, which he can look to terminate after 10 years. And number 1, Zachary Davis.
I killed Melanie and left Josh alive to suffer. I didn't feel anything when I killed her, even when her blood splattered on my arm and her brain matter was thrown onto my shirt.
August 10th, 2012. Zach Davis, a 15-year-old teen from Hendersonville, Tennessee, killed his mother and attempted to kill his brother by setting their house on fire. Upon capture, authorities didn't struggle to obtain a confession. The killer teen got straight to the point when he was in custody.
I killed my mom and she made police charge to her.
Is there a reason why you did that?
Yes.
Well, can you tell me why?
Set off red flags for the local police department when a disfigured Melanie Davis, Zachary's mom, was found inside the house. Zachary set the house on fire, left a homemade explosive device under his brother's bed, hoping to kill him as well, and then tried to escape town. Well, that explosive failed to detonate, and his brother Joshua called 911 after escaping the fire. The crazy thing about this was his complete absence of emotion, with his adamant refusal to reveal his motives, even though he was a disturbed individual and had gone through a series of mental issues without receiving proper treatment or therapy. It just seemed odd that he withheld this crucial piece of information.
Have you ever hurt anybody before?
Oh, sure.
Well, I mean, how did you feel when you killed your mom?
A little into the interview, he claimed that he hated his mother because she was abusive and controlling, and that he wanted to kill his brother because he was popular and successful. He also said that the Columbine shooters inspired him and that he planned to commit a school shooting as well. The evidence suggests that Zach's story was one of convoluted lies, in which he was after the fame and recognition he associated with serial killers, leaving behind any possible attachments to friends or family members. Now, Zach was tried as an adult, facing life in prison now without parole. Since he was suffering from depression, schizophrenia, and antisocial personality disorder, coupled with a high dose of childhood trauma, he pleaded not guilty because of insanity. But the jury rejected him. They found him guilty of first-degree murder, attempted murder, and aggravated arson. He was sentenced to life in prison plus 25 years.